actually have an announcement. So for the homework, for Spark homework, I haven't recorded it yet, so I will do this tonight in the evening. Then I will publish the video, and then after we publish this video, I'll close the form. But I saw that it seems like most of you get the correct answer. So when I look at the breakdown of the answers, I don't see any question where like there are because there is one of the question is about the size. I think it caused the size of the resulting data set. It caused a bit of a confusion, it seems. But when I look at the breakdown of the questions, more than 90% of people got it correctly. So I'm not worried there. So I'll record solution today, and then we will close the form, and then we will have 1 week for Kafka. Well, unless most of you have problems with this, and then we'll see if we can extend this. I don't think we did any announcements about the projects, right? Did we put anything to GitHub yet?
I added some more details, but I still have to finish that. But I mean, I guess we can explain kind of like the overview. I'm not sure if we've done that before. I think we did it right a few weeks ago. But the idea is that you pick a data set, and then you can do one of the two pipelines that been explained in the course. So big picture. More information is coming in a README file.
Okay, so maybe I'll take care of the homework today, and then we can also start preparing information. I guess there are some people who already almost finished Kafka week, so maybe they can start working on projects already.
Yeah, there's a thread, right, that we need to put it, maybe link in the README or something like that. If you're looking for a data set, there's a thread that you have prepared before. It's in announcements.
Yeah, I think there's, let me share my screen.
Yeah.
I think there is like it was moved to this frequently asked questions. Yeah, these projects. And
awesome.
Alvaro put like all the answers we had. Alvaro put them to the to this list of frequently asked questions. So you can see this, like if you're looking for a data set in the list of frequently asked questions, at the end there is this project section. Check it out. There is a lot of different data sets there. Okay. Oh, we already have quite a few questions.
First one already answered.
Yeah, but yeah, you're free to choose any datasets. Already a few people reached out to me asking if this is a good dataset, and I think to everyone who asked me that, I said yes, this is a good dataset. There was one thread, I think it was about a question about images, whether it's a good idea to use images for this project. I don't think it's a good idea to use images, because there will be quite a lot of things you'll need to do in addition to what we cover in the course, like image processing, trying to extract some information from images that is outside of the scope. And if this is the first time you work with images, it could be quite difficult. So I don't think it's realistic that you'll be able to do a data engineering project and then this thing on top of that in let's say 2 weeks. You might end up spending too much time on that. Yeah, so maybe try to select a less ambitious data set, something like if it's a table, a CSV file or Parquet file, then good. If it's image, probably it's better not to use it. If it's text, then yeah, because with text you also need to do quite some work to preprocess it. So maybe if it's just a natural language, also not a good idea to use it. But yeah, if I again select this thing, so for example, this command crawl, there is a lot of just text, which probably could be, depending on what exactly you want to do, might be not a great data set. Yeah, if you're not sure, maybe share your idea, share what you want to do, and then we can tell you if it's doable within a couple of weeks or not. And what I also want to share is a dump of Slack, of Data Talks Club Slack. There is also quite a lot of structured information that could be used, and yeah, it's also grouped in days. So for each day there is a JSON file. You can build a nice pipeline for that. So I will probably make a dump and share it in the channel, and you can see if it's something you want to use or not. Okay. When choosing datasets for project, what are some things we should consider? I don't know. I somehow answer questions that like before I see these questions. What are the things we should consider, either to get the most out of the project or to avoid unnecessary headaches? Yeah, so one thing is this, you should not use images unless you really know what you're doing. What else? It probably shouldn't be a super small data set, like should be more than 1 megabyte ideally.
Yes, probably like more than one file, like in the taxes that we have up to 4. So at least 2. And I think also it's important to understand that the course is more focused on the concepts and everything that they're going to be using is more focused on building their pipeline and processing that data than the actual presentation. So maybe it's like super cool to do an analysis on these images, as you were saying before, but in reality, what you need to practice is more on processing that data. That's why it's easier to use something else.
So I'm thinking what else we should suggest here. Yeah, maybe if you come across a data set and you're not sure if it's a good data set or not, just ask in Slack and we will help. And yeah, I think that list is quite good. Yeah, so it's a good start. And then of course, like let's say if we talk about Kaggle, on Kaggle there are tons of different data sets. So some of them contain images, some of them, yeah, for example, the tweets. Yeah, by the way, you can also use tweets. So there is some structured information you can extract from tweets as well. Maybe this is actually good if, let's say, you want to practice streaming, because you can just get a stream of tweets coming from Twitter, and then you can process them on the fly. I think this could be also a good project. Or sometimes you can also parse something. So, for example, there are websites. For example, like that one in Germany, this website for selling and buying things. So, for example, you can build a parser for getting the data and then put in this. And for example, this thing would go every day, take the data, do something with this data. I don't know, put this to CSV and then put this to a data warehouse or do something like this. But don't spend too much time on scraping. I think there are already scrapers available for, like, maybe if you just Google eBay Kleinanzeigen scraper, you will find some code. So don't spend a lot of time on trying to build the scraper yourself.
Yeah, also something like Twitter, like you suggested, and I guess Instagram as well, they have APIs, which makes that part super easy. So if you want something like that and you can find something that already has an API, then that's probably the easiest option. And you can also get to practice that, which is also very useful.
Yeah, okay. So then I don't know how to answer questions about Kafka. To be honest, I didn't have a chance to watch the videos yet, and Victoria also didn't have a chance. So Ankush is traveling right now, so he's now on a plane to Germany, and what we agreed is we will collect all the questions about Kafka. So I will now copy it, and I will paste it somewhere.
And I think it's also cut the question, right? Because it says I want to use CLI for Kafka and 2 dots. Not sure if the 2 dots are shows. Yeah. But yeah, copy paste.
So I'll just let me stop sharing my screen for a second. I want to open my Visual Studio Code, and I want to make sure that there is no sensitive information there.
I guess I can also go to the.
I will start sharing my screen again. Okay, so I copied that question. So this is the thing where I will put all the questions about Kafka, and then I will put them to Slack, and then Ankush will answer them. Okay.
Yeah.
So for the project, do we need to orchestrate everything with Airflow? Or can we use Airflow in some parts and the rest do it manually? So you need to use some sort of orchestrator, whether it's Airflow or something else. But yeah, doing things manually, I don't think it's a good idea for the project. You can still finish the project. We haven't started working on the dimensions for assessing the project, but one of the dimensions, one of the criteria for evaluating the project will be whether you use a workflow orchestrator or not for that. So if you decide not to use workflow orchestrator, you will not get scores for that dimension. So maybe you'll lose 2 or 3 scores. I don't know. We still need to finalize that. But yeah, that's the idea. So better to use it, because in real life you will need to use an orchestrator. But yeah, and it depends like what is the rest, like what exactly is the rest. Maybe if you can give us a bit more details, let's say in Slack, we can answer it. Yeah, we can answer it. But yeah, it's better to use it.
Probably also worth mentioning something that we mentioned before, that they could use another scheduler if they don't like Airflow. Just make sure to clarify that in your project details, because the person that will evaluate that, so in the peer review, should be able to understand what you've done, and they may not have experience with that scheduler. But that could also be an option if that's what you find it easier.
Any good streaming datasets apart from Twitter? Do you know any good streaming datasets?
I've used Twitter only, like that. I've never. No, I don't. That one is very good.
Yeah, there is also some. I think you can get some data from stock exchanges, real time. I don't know, but I don't know if it's free or you have to pay for this. Maybe there are some exchanges that can give you this data for free.
Yeah, there are a few that they can give you for free now that you're saying, and I think also the how is the one? There's one from the US that has a sports news. It's something with N, I think. Sorry, I can't remember now. But they also have an API, so that could also be a good streaming. But it's news, so it has some structure. But in
streaming data for practice in Excel. Yeah, Google is funny.
I can't imagine Excel trying to process streaming data like real time.
Yeah, I think if you just Google and awesome public streaming data sets, that looks promising. Coinbase, yeah, right. Twitter. Yeah, maybe let me share it here.
Yes, good one.
I have missed the current Zoomcamp. There will be another one in the nearest future. Maybe, maybe not. We will see. But all the content is available. So when Vic said that we must use one of the 2 approaches for the project, what you are exactly talking about? Batch versus stream?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So you could use, for example, there are some weeks that kind of like overlap one or the other, and maybe not overlap, but you could use DBT or you could use a Spark. This is what we mean 1 or 2 approaches. Like you can choose what to use out of everything you learned.
And then also for the pipeline, indeed, batch versus stream, it's also an option. So how exactly your data ends up in your data warehouse before you do, like somehow you need to put the data in data warehouse, and then you can do it with batch or with stream, right? And after the data is there, you can do some other stuff on top of that to transform the data. So this is, for example, you can use dbt for that or something else. So indeed, there are many ways you can, how to say, juggle it or change. You can, or maybe you can have both. It's also an option. Probably, yeah. Maybe you can go just with one.
I mean, there are some things that there's not much of an option because, for example, BigQuery, you need to have the Google Cloud storage or things like that. You need to, well, unless you're using the local version, I guess. Then they'll have it locally.
Yeah, I think this one I already copied, right?
Yeah, that's the one you
it's
copied
the same
before.
one, right? I didn't mark it as a minor side note. Any reason why you typically display Slido questions sorted by popular and not by recent? I guess this way, if there is a question that many people want to see answer, we will cover it first instead of. To me, it makes more sense. I don't know.
Yeah, makes sense. But I guess some of the questions that are questions on top of the questions that we're answering, then they get kind of like lost, right? Because you get them to see them. That's maybe where it comes from. But yeah, makes sense to do it the popular way because they get to vote.
Will the project be group or individual work? It's individual.
Yeah.
So with groups, yeah, I think it becomes trickier with groups.
Yes, but I guess you can always discuss it in the Slack and have someone. I mean, someone else could be using the same data set. Their chances, I guess.
Yeah, I think that becomes a group project in this case, right? If the data set is the same, but you have different use cases at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so question to me: why were you reluctant to use Spark MLlib, but experience what are you using for building machine learning for big data? Yeah, so my experience with Spark MLlib is it was added more like an afterthought to Spark, so it's not the main Spark, it's not the focus of Spark. And they thought, okay, it would be cool to show that we can actually also do machine learning, but the models that you get from Spark MLlib are not really good. So usual Python, like in scikit-learn, in Python you use a library called scikit-learn usually for training models, machine learning models, and they typically are a lot better than Spark models. They are also faster to train. Yeah. So my explanation for that is that MLlib was added to Spark just to show that it's possible, like a proof of concept, and they really didn't invest much time into that, and I don't know if it's actively maintained or not. So yeah, my experience wasn't good with this, and the way we usually use Spark is for preparing the data, and then once the data set is there in Parquet file, then we would use something else, not Spark, to load this data and train a model. And then for applying the model, I already released a video about that. It's the last one about map partition. So this is how we typically apply machine learning models with Spark, so you can check it out. So, and I think, yeah, I answered that. What are you using for building machine learning for big data? Yeah, you can just use a big machine that has a lot of memory, a lot of RAM, and then you just load this data set and then use something like scikit-learn to train a model. Can you please explain the use cases of Splunk and Snowflake? So Snowflake, Splunk, I don't know. It's not a data warehouse, is it, Victoria? Do you know?
No, it's Snowflake has an integration with Splunk, and Splunk is a data observability platform. I mean, maybe Google it. I've never used it. I don't feel confident enough to explain a use case, but it would be something. I know Monte Carlo, for example. I think, do you know it? Have you used it?
I heard
think
it.
I think it's kind of the same as Monte Carlo. So it's just observability, and it provides also some security features around your data in your data warehouse. But what else did the question ask for a use case, and if we can use it for the project, right?
Yeah.
Can we use these tools for the project? I mean, you can use it. It doesn't fully do anything we thought to do it some other way around, as far as I know, because it's kind of like a layer on top, I would say, that adds more information and that you would end up using probably in a company, but it's up to you. If you want to try it, I think it's a good opportunity. You already have a project. Other than that, it's not necessary. Plus, I guess you'll have to use a Snowflake. Not sure if it's warehouse like agnostic or it's just for Snowflake. That part I'm missing.
And for Snowflake, yeah, is there a trial version for Snowflake?
Yes.
Do you know? Okay.
300 credits as well, which probably you could use them more because you can only use the warehouse. So.
But
like
you can have Snowflake in AWS, you can have it in Google Cloud Platform, right? You can have it in any cloud. Can you?
Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure when you do the free trial if you have some kind of limitation on where they host it. So when you buy it, definitely you choose that, where to host it, location, and everything. For the free trial, I can't remember now, but I know that's $300.
But basically Snowflake, the use case for that is the same, is a replacement, not a replacement, an alternative for BigQuery. So you would use it in the same way you would use BigQuery, right? It's a data warehouse. And then another alternative could be, I know people quite often use Redshift, for example, which is from AWS. Then there's Firebolt, I think, or something like this.
Yeah, but Firebolt, it's not entirely, because Firebolt is more oriented to performance, right? So I think, for example, I've heard some very interesting use cases about people that they use Snowflake for everything like transformation and all of that, and then they connect the BI tool to Firebolt because apparently the querying is very fast. So I don't think you could use entirely Firebolt as an alternative to Snowflake or BigQuery, for example. But yeah, I guess it's like everything else, right? Like if you're doing a project, you have the time, you're confident enough with everything, then do it, and you want to try it, do it. If not, if you're already not sure about the time and everything, try not to use new tools. You can always do another project or even continue on the same one, because otherwise you'll just auto complicate yourself. With because you have to learn, even though it's an alternative and it's still a data warehouse, you still have to learn it.
And if I correctly understand what Splunk is, so I know what in general data observability is. Let's say you have a streaming pipeline. There is some data going through your pipeline, or you have a batch pipeline. So you have some data there. And what these tools give you is a possibility to monitor data quality. So every day you can see how many records are there, how many records with null values in certain columns, and then they give you some nice dashboards and all that. We a bit covered data quality with DBT, right? So we have that there. And Splunk is a more advanced data quality tool, I would say, to the same extent as there is, for example, a tool called Great Expectations, which is and now it's showing me a novel. So there is a tool, Great Expectations, which is like also data quality tool. Another one, interesting one, is Soda SQL.
Yeah. Actually, Great Expectation, there's a package inspired on Great Expectation for DBT, if you're also interested. But
so you can check them, like they're open source. Then there is also a tool called YLogs, which is also
that one I don't know.
It's more focused on machine learning, but also because for machine learning, data pipelines is a big part of machine learning pipelines. So they also do data pipelines. And they, for example, support Spark as well. So there is quite a bunch of tools, but we do not cover these tools only. We touch data quality only a little bit in dbt. So maybe it's a bit advanced, but at work, when you will have real data pipeline, having these quality checks is a good idea.
Yeah.
What are your favorite non-common tools that you use for data engineering analytics? Do you have any favorite
yes,
tool?
I have. I mean, I've used all common tools, I guess. But we use also a tier for the pipeline, kind of like instead of doing airflow and all that, to load the data basically in a Snowflake from the S3 buckets, we use MLlib. And it's not well known, it's very small. It's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite at like ETL.
Lib?
ETL, leap.
Like that?
Wait, maybe I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, that's maybe it's
So ETL.
ETL.
And then EAP.
EAT. Maybe just type it.
Yeah, I'm doing that. There it goes.
It says Eleanor.
I know. No, it's not that one. It corrected me. Sorry. Oh God. I'm not very. It's a new tablet. I'm not very used to use a tablet. I didn't bring my computer, so.
When I interviewed you about analytics engineering, you mentioned this tool. I think I remember trying to understand what you were saying and then map it to a tool. I think I spent like, I don't know, 5 minutes doing that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, it's just as an integration. It's not well known. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but sorry. And I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's very easy to use. It does what it needs to do. I mean, in 5 minutes, you have a pipeline. It works. So that would say it's the most non-common tools for what we've seen that I've used. And I really like Metabase, that I get to know it to provide like the local version. And I really liked it. Because it has, yeah, right, the one I show in the videos. That I only get to know it for that, but I really like the idea that you select something like a table and it gives you already like a lot of graphs and all of that, the things that I show a little bit in the videos. It was very easy to use. It has, of course, some limitations if you compare with bigger ones like Looker, for example, say. It's clear that it's newer and all of that, but it works very well. At least that was a small experience, not using it for work.
Yeah, just trying to think what would be my favorite non-common tools that I use for data engineering analytics. And I don't know, frankly. I think the tools I use are pretty common, and I don't think I have any favorite ones. We use Airflow, we use Spark. Well, pretty boring stuff.
I mean, I can think also other category, like data quality, for example, is not that, I guess you get there when your team is more mature to actually have a tool outside of that. What do you really think?
Yeah.
Data catalogs, there are some very good ones as well.
Yeah, we use an in-house data catalog, so I haven't really checked.
Yeah.
But having a data catalog is a good idea. And the purpose for this is like for all the data sources, for all the data that flows through your data pipelines, you need some sort of documentation. You need who is responsible for this data set, data source, if there is any personal data there. We have an in-house tool, but I think there are many open source tools. There are many non-open source tools for that.
Yeah, so you can, if you're interested in, I would recommend to check Amundsen. That's probably like one of the fast ones to explore. They've been in a bunch of conferences and podcasts and everything, so there are a lot of resources. That one is open source. It's from Lyft, if I remember correctly. But now, like all the big ones, they have it. And so like LinkedIn has their one, like their data catalog and all of that. And all of those, most of those are open source, so you can check them out as well. And so that's quite, now they're even built and sell you data catalogs built on top of those.
You mean like proprietary tools that are based on open source tools?
Yeah. So next one, for someone who wants to now apply for data engineering jobs after the course, what else do you recommend? SQL, Python coding, AWS, GCP, Labs, etc.
Maybe I would suggest with just start applying and then see what they ask you. So I think what we covered is already sufficient to start working, in my opinion. Of course, like we already expected that you know some SQL. Becoming better at SQL is always a good idea. Python coding is also helpful. But yeah, I think the best thing you can do now is just start applying, and then you will either get a job immediately or you will get some feedback from the companies. You will see, okay, it seems like they need this thing, but I don't know this. Let me improve this. Right?
Yeah, I feel the same. If you start applying, just know that you're going to get rejected, but you'll get a good idea of what you're missing. Because in there, have also in consideration that every company has their own expectations and different things, but you'll get kind of like a sense of where are you standing. Try to ask feedback as well, and especially if you get to if they have a home assignment challenge or that kind of like, if you get to the technical interview stage, that would be super, super helpful to get you oriented. And people usually are nice, I would say. And you can get to in technical interviews. I tried to be, and I think I had people that were nice in technical interviews. So they kind of like, you actually can have a kind of like a discussion on the technology, and they can even orient you a little bit. So it could be a good a good resource, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, maybe do projects. So instead of focusing on, okay, should I improve coding? Should I learn AWS? So let's say instead of just learning AWS, maybe come up with a project and then use AWS for this project. And yeah, this is, in my opinion, much more productive rather than just, I don't know, preparing for an AWS certificate. And then this is a good thing, of course. But when you focus on the project, you focus on the things that you really need, and then you have something at the end rather than just AWS knowledge. I think it's more, how to say, you get something that you can put on a CV, and then people can go to your GitHub and check it out. So yeah, I would recommend to do projects instead of just learning things.
It's also more fun because you get to know. I mean, you have a lot of troubleshooting to do when you do a project, plus you have a motivation behind, like, getting to, I don't know, analyze the stream of Twitter data or stuff like that. So it's definitely more entertaining as well. And you get to know like a bit of everything, which are the things that you get to do as well when you're working.
And then there is a thing called just-in-time learning. So you have a problem, and then you need to focus on solving this particular problem, and then you start learning what exactly you need for that. So yeah, projects are cool. So in both of your experience, how much has the environment of data engineering changed? It feels like there have been many changes, tools in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can actually tell a funny story. I mean, funny, an anecdote. I built a program for my parents with Java and it had a database, and it was in MySQL database. And yesterday I was trying to fix something, and when I check everything and try to use the Workbench, they have like that very old version when I installed in 2014, and it was very hard for me to use it. And I was like, oh my god, how like well things have improved all these years, that now I find so difficult to do this that I did when I was still studying. I didn't have much experience or anything. But yeah, I would say definitely tools have made things very, very easy. The fact that you can do in 5 minutes a pipeline with a tool like we're saying MLlib, or what you can do with Airflow instead of having to do cron jobs.
Yeah, but on the other hand, MySQL is still MySQL, right? It was 10 years ago, MySQL.
I mean,
So some things change, but some things still stay the same. So there are things that change indeed, but there are some fundamental things like Postgres. I don't think it changed significantly. Well, when I started with Postgres, when I first used it, it was a usual desktop app, this PG admin. Now it's a web app, right? So now it's different, but it kind of have still the same look and feel, right? Well, previously you needed to install Postgres. Now you can just run it from Docker, which is helpful. At least for me. I know many of you had problems with running it from Docker, but I remember how difficult it is first to install Postgres and then figure out how to actually delete it when you no longer need it, because it runs as a service, and then it's hard to kill. I remember that it was giving me some problems, and now with Docker you just start it, well, provided that it works, and then when you no longer need it, you just forget about this. So this is pretty cool.
True, and before I'm not sure if you use the same. I used to use a VirtualBox a lot as well. So Docker has definitely been a game changer. Yeah. And I remember for my thesis, I had to do like a distributed system, and I had like 5 virtual boxes in my machine running to like fake those 5 servers. And now you can do it, I mean, with all web, with the cloud data warehouse, because there was not such thing as free trials and things like that.
Or with Docker Compose, right? You can just start 5 Docker containers. Yeah, but okay, there is. I think now you mentioned this MLlib tools, like they are like no-code tools almost. You can connect things with arrows. You just there is your data source, there is destination. You connect and it works. So this is also cool. But fundamentally, again, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And I think it's you have way more options, which can be very overwhelming, because a few years ago your data warehouse was probably one of the big ones if you were in a company like Oracle or MySQL, or SQL Server. But right now there are a lot of options. There's a lot of competition, so the technology improves very fast. But there's also easier things to do. Like you can still code, but you can also do no code, for example, and still get to have the parts you need.
But fundamentally, if you're worried about, you learn something, but then there is a new tool appearing, fundamentally things haven't changed that much. So we still have ETL processes, but instead of using tools like Informatica, now we use something else for that. So if you focus on this,
same from the 70s.
So that okay. So in the original plan, the project was going to start this week for 3 weeks. What do you think is going to be more or less the current plan for the Zoomcamp? Well, I think now we finish Kafka week. I think we should have called them modules, not weeks, because they didn't really correspond one-to-one to physical calendar weeks. But yeah, so now when we finish the Kafka week, then we'll start the project. And I think 3 weeks is reasonable, because we don't want you to spend too much on working on projects. Instead of being too ambitious, maybe you should think, okay, like what I can actually do in 2 weeks. And then the 3rd week is for reviewing your peers. So let's say right now, today is the deadline for Spark, and then for Kafka, let's say the deadline is next week. So we will have till March 27th to finish the project, and then one last week of March to do peer reviewing. So that's roughly the plan. We will of course see how it goes and maybe adjust, but for now that's the plan. I hope it's clear. I already asked this in Slack, but here it goes. What is your opinion on learning Scala for Spark? Yeah, you can learn Scala for Spark. It will be useful. I think we had a discussion about this, and Ankush said it's definitely going to be useful. And I remember one case when in my previous company we needed to rewrite something from Python to Scala, and it improved the speed of this step significantly, just rewriting it. So knowing it is helpful, but I think you can get away with just Python for most of the stuff. So depending on how deep you want to go into Spark, maybe you can learn this. My personal opinion, there are better ways to learn than Scala, but yeah, tastes differ. So I don't know, Victoria, do you have any suggestion, like, or idea? Should they learn Scala or something else?
No, I don't. I think that's more data engineering focus, definitely. But I'm with you. Like, if you learn Python and stuff like, also I think if you come from a computer science background, I mean, this depends, right? And you already know kind of how to program and all of that. Don't be scared that if you had to pick up a Scala because of your job, you'll probably be able to do it anyway. So I mean, of course, like everything, you'll have to learn something, but don't be scared that you won't know it or things like that, or that people won't hire you because of that.
Yeah, for getting hired, Python is sufficient.
Yeah.
Also, talking about Scala, as I understood, for Kafka, packages in the Java world, in JVM, like for both Java, Scala, and other JVM languages, they are more advanced than Python. So for some things, for example, for streaming, there are also libraries like Flink, for example, they have Python integrations, but still the Java API, the Scala API are better. So for some things, for some use cases, you might end up learning Scala or Java. Yeah, I would say don't learn it until you need it. But if you are into programming languages, yeah, you can pick it up.
Yeah, and I think it's always better to know a few things like Python and SQL and stuff like that, and then pick it up the other things, or then know a bunch of things but just very little. So that's my strategy, I would say.
Is there a need to use Spark for our project if the size of data is not big? Cannot we just do the whole orchestration and have tables in the data warehouse with Airflow? You can. You don't have to use Spark for that. So yeah, depending on what exactly. Maybe you can ask, tell us what exactly your data set is, and then we can maybe give better recommendations. But yeah, you don't have to use Spark. It's optional, of course. You can use it if you want. You don't have to use it if you don't want. There are other tools. Yeah, I think just using Airflow is also fine. But yeah, maybe consider using dbt. Maybe for your use case, it will be easier than just doing the whole thing in Airflow. Anything to add?
No, I think it's good, your answer.
Job ask for Reddit, Snowflake, BigQuery. Are data engineers expected to know all of them and be able to integrate multiple data warehouse, or it is sufficient to know one? Want to take this?
So I mean, same as we kind of have been saying, you don't need to know everything. No one knows everything, and there's a point like you get at the beginning, everything is a bit difficult. Like everyone have a lot of problem with Docker and BigQuery and stuff like that. But you get also to a point where everything starts getting a bit easier. So for me, for example, I worked several years with Microsoft SQL Server, and then I changed the shop. They use Redshift, and I learned it very quickly. And because the basic at the end, and then we migrated to Snowflake, and then it was very easy. The basics are always the same, right? Like a data warehouse is a data warehouse, SQL is SQL, Python is Python, an ETL process is an ETL process. So don't focus that much on the tool. As long as you know one well and you understand the concept behind and how everything works and things like that, you'll be able to work there. And then about if you're able to integrate, again, if you know how to do an ETL process, for example, then you'll be okay as well to integrate regardless the tool they'll use at the top. I also don't think.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw a comment that Slido was frozen. I hope it wasn't for too long. I stopped sharing and started sharing again. I hope it wasn't too long and you didn't again need to watch my download folder for half an hour.
I know. If I have to be honest, I was seeing black and only your image,
okay.
and I was trying
to
play it, but I thought no, not that long. But I was trying to play with. I thought it was something that I touched because I told you that this is the first time I used this tablet and everything. So I thought it was something that I touched. And that's why I didn't say anything.
Okay, I got a bit distracted. Sorry.
5 minutes.
Okay. So not the whole stream. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to add from yours? And I was going to say that I also don't believe, or I wouldn't do it if I were hiring someone and the person doesn't happen to know the exact data warehouse. I want, like, for example, we use a Snowflake. I won't ask very specific things of a Snowflake. And if they do know Snowflake and they've been certified or whatever in a Snowflake, that's a very big plus. But that's not something that I would reject someone because they don't have it. If you understand the data warehousing concepts, you're good. What do you think? Do you have anything different?
It's like for any other technology. Like, let's say we use Airflow, but somebody who hasn't used Airflow before, but they used Luigi comes to us. It's not like we're going to reject them, right? Just because they didn't have experience with Airflow. These concepts, I think, are transferable. And the same with cloud. So let's say somebody has experience with GCP, but we use AWS. It's again, like if the person has experience with cloud, it's enough, because I think many things are transferable from one cloud to another. Of course, there are specifics, like there are some particular things that are specific to each cloud, but most of the concepts, they are pretty transferable. And yeah, take any technology we covered here, and then there are many alternatives. If you know one of these alternatives, you are good. As long as ideally you have, you can build like this data pipeline, you know all these concepts that we covered, and you know at least one technology from all of these concepts, it's already quite good. Okay.
That one, I guess, is answer.
Yeah.
Do you ever have issues with type? Okay, kind of. Do you understand the same as me? Like, there's people that always want to use like the latest technology or things like that.
This is how I understand it as well.
Yeah. Have you had any issues?
So maybe I was like that every time. Like I heard that there's a new, I don't know, a new language, a new tool, a new something. I wanted to try it, but then I realized that these new tools, they are pretty raw usually. So they look shiny, but when you start using them, a lot of problems come up. And sometimes it's better to use time-proven tools, like be a bit conservative. And this is something I did. This is something happened with experience of trying these tools and then seeing that they're even though they look shiny, there are still some bugs, especially if it's a new tool. It makes sense. So yeah, how to mitigate? I don't know. Maybe it, I guess, depends on the use case, but just ask yourself or the team how much this new tool actually brings you, what are the pros and cons, like how much work you will add to what you have when you integrate a new tool, and what are the potential benefits, and if the benefits overweight the headaches you have, you can go with this. And usually when you do this analysis, you see maybe you don't actually need that new tool. The old one is fine.
Yeah, same. Have a critical mindset. Do not just go because there's a hype. I always go read everything, and then you kind of like see, is this something that I'm already using? Will this add that much value? How much headaches will it add? And then also it's another tool to maintain, right? So it's just everything. Have a critical mindset, definitely. I think we have to speed up a little bit because we have 7 minutes. Do we have many questions left?
10. With dbt local, can one visualize DAX?
Yes, you can actually visualize not just the DAX, the whole dbt docs that we saw on the cloud. The way you do it is in the terminal. I thought I had show it in the video, but basically what you do is you run dbt docs generate. That will generate a manifest with all of the relationships and everything, and then you do dbt docs serve, and this will host the dbt docs in like your local host. It's in the repo, I'm pretty sure, in the how to use it or something like that. You'll find the commands in there. If not, it's dbt docs generate dbt docs to make sure you always have like the latest version, and dbt go inside the project itself. So go inside the taxi rights, yeah, and then in the README, that one at the very end of that README that you have in there. Yes. Generate documentation for the project, dbt docs generate. View the documentation for the project, so 5 and 6. dbt docs serve, and that will use it. That will open it in your local host. And I mean, this, like everything, depending on how to run it, you could host it somewhere else if you want it. But this is how you would look at it locally.
And it will show a picture like that, right?
Yeah, I will show the dbt docs that I show in the videos. So you'll have kind of like a data catalog of everything, and then from every table you can go and check the DAC as well.
Okay. Have you ever seen a data engineering position that required Spark or Kafka?
Yeah, I was once offered one that uses Spark, and I don't use the Spark, and I still got the job. So going back to, I didn't take it, but going back to what you said before, nobody is going to reject you, so you don't use exactly what they use, right? Like what you have to show, I guess, what's more important is that you can learn it. Regarding Kafka, it's important that you understand what's going on, because you'll build a pipeline on top of Kafka as an analytics engineer, depending, right, on how much your data engineers will work, but you'll have to consume that data. So as analytics engineer, you are going to be the bridge between those data engineers and the analyst. So it's very important that maybe not you're an expert in Kafka, but you understand kind of what Kafka is. That would be at least. I wouldn't recommend anyone to go and learn a Spark if they are mostly focused analytics engineer. As I said before, if you understand like the concept, right? It's more important that you understand what you have to model, how, and all of these things. I think that's answered.
If you did all the homework, all the course and homework, is there any way you can get the certificate if you're not interested in the project? So the way we thought about this is just watching a course is not enough. So maybe you watch a course and you feel like you know everything, but when you try to do something, you realize that actually it's not as easy. Right? And we want you to have this experience. We want you to now sit and try to apply all this knowledge that you picked. And that's why we decided that the only way you get a certificate at the end is if you did a project. So that's the purpose. It's not enough just to watch it. You need to do things yourself. So the answer to this, no, there is no way. You need to do a project if you are interested in a certificate. Anything to add? Or?
No, but could we skip the next one, sorry, and go to the other one? I think it's more the tutorials on how to install DBT locally. And then we can go to Apache Hop. I haven't used it with Anaconda. I think it's also in the documentation, but just install DBT locally in general. And if you're using Anaconda and you're using your environment and you're in your environment, then you can install it there. You just you can use both brew if you're using a Mac, or you can also use pip install. So then you just do pip install DBT Postgres, for example, if you need that adapter, or DBT Snowflake, or DBT BigQuery, whatever you want to use locally. And then that's it, your install. Then you have to set up the profiles YML that I show in the videos, create your project or clone it or whatever, and that's it. That's all you need to use it locally. I never installed it using Anaconda, but I'm guessing it's probably something similar. You probably do Conda Forge and install it like that if it's possible. Otherwise, I would just go with the pip install.
And in Anaconda, you usually have pip.
So. Yeah. So if you're in that environment, you just install it like that, and then that's it. And then I want Argentina is like go at Argentina. So yes.
Okay, mark this as resolved. So for this one, for stats, I will share this in Slack. Do you know anything about Apache Hop? This is actually the first time I hear about this.
No, Google.
Hop orchestration platform.
It's an orchestration platform.
It's data and metadata orchestration.
Interesting.
Well, since it's Apache, I assume it's cool, but other than that...
It's true, you're a fan of Apache.
I mean, usually, in order to become an Apache project, a top-level project, like a project needs to undergo like some process, which is not easy. So, and for those projects that did undergo this, I think, yeah, they are by definition cool, I guess. But I'm still not sure what this thing is exactly.
I guess an alternative to, I mean, if it's orchestration, it has to be something similar like Airflow, right? Loading big data sets, but maybe more focused to orchestrate your metadata somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's shiny. I wouldn't classify this documentation as shiny, to be honest.
But what if you go to there was one about the UI overview I saw, where you were before.
Here somewhere. Let me. Maybe this one.
I didn't know where I saw it. There. Not that shiny.
I don't know. Yeah, there are shinier tools, I would say.
Yeah, it's more old school, but it's good.
Okay, maybe last one. Is it okay to follow the videos without fully understanding the why behind? Sometimes I don't understand line by line. I think it's okay. If you have any particular problems, maybe ask in Slack. But yeah, if this is the first exposure for you to all these tools, it might be overwhelming, and there is a lot of information, and it's understandable that some things aren't clear. And when I actually rewatch some of the videos I did, like when editing, for example, I realized that there is no way people will understand what I meant here. So yeah, this is fine that some things aren't clear. Yeah, but if you have a particular doubt for a particular line that you don't understand and you want to understand, yeah, you can just ask on Slack. Anything you can do to supplement, yeah, I would just say go with projects, and then when you get stuck, Google or ask for help, and this is how you will learn and fully understand things.
Yeah, and I think it's time, right? 2 minutes. That's only one that I would say maybe worth recap on the deadlines for the project. So this week finishes the homework for week 5. Next week, deadline for homework week 6.
Yes.
And then for that, the project, this is also for me, Enrica. And then for that, from that, we start with the project, and it's 3 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks the project, and then the last week is peer reviewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the recap. So we should finish by the beginning of April. Let me see, like 3rd of April. So by the 4th of April, we hopefully should finish. But we will also see how exactly it goes with everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
And homeworks are not needed for the certificate, right? So then if you're very, very behind, I guess you can skip the homeworks and then just start working on the project. You'll end up learning somehow.
Yeah, and what we made an announcement last week because of what is happening in Ukraine. Many of you cannot do a project right now, and this is understandable. So we will have another cohort of a project. So maybe after the first one finishes, then there will be another cohort. And also for those who are joining later, maybe you're just watching week 1 now or week 2, you can now catch up, and then there will be another cohort for another project in April probably, that you can have a chance to do this a bit later. But yeah, we don't have any dates right now. We will see how it goes, and probably maybe it will happen immediately after the first project, but we'll see. Yeah, yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.